Okay, welcome to the first of the opinion videos. Okay, the second because I did the one on features I wanted in IMVU earlier. But this time I'm talking about something else entirely different. So for this one, I want to try the unscripted format. Let it just flow from my head directly to the mic, as minimal cuts as possible, and that's what we're going to do. Just testing out this format for this one. If it works, it's fine. If it doesn't work, oh well. We'll switch to a different format later on. But yes, so with this commentary, sorry by the way if you can hear like cars passing by and all some kind of miscellaneous noises. That's because where I am is like a good thinking space, so that's part of the reason I'm even doing this unscripted, because I'm seated somewhere where I like to sit when I want to really think and plot things. But the thing now is this area is kind of facing the roads, and while it's a bit late at night, a lot of cars are driving very fast, so you can hear some of the noises, though not as pronounced, I hope, when I eventually listen back to this recording. So we are going to discuss in this video 5 albums that have very good singing. Okay, so 5 albums that have very, very good singing. Basically, for me, when I want to get myself into a creative mood and get the creative juices moving, I like to listen to music sometimes. Sometimes I listen to like informative content, be like an educative audio recording, audio book, or some form of podcast. But big one for me is playlists sometimes, but more of albums. And in the few years I've been creating for IMVU, and of almost a decade I've been doing digital 3D work, and over a decade I've been doing digital artwork. These are some of the albums that I've listened to that I find myself coming back to often. Although the last one I don't find myself coming back to often. It was just a one-time listen and it just blew me away, and I have to recommend it. So I don't have the list typed out with me because where the connection isn't strong. So I'm going to try and remember this off my head. This is, I'm telling you, I'm just looking at this. It's going to be like all those messy audio videos that I'll just be like, what was I even thinking? But just worth a shot at the end of the day. So let me know in the comments if this format is something you're interested in or you prefer the scripted ones. Yeah, so 5 albums with great singing. What do I mean by great singing? Not necessarily that the lead singer of the album has a strong voice or has like an interesting voice. I'm talking about maybe they're like guests on the album, or overall on the vocal quality. That's like, it may not even necessarily be the album standout, because some of the albums I'll mention also have great instrumental, but the vocals on the albums are just mesmerizing. Okay, so the first one that I have here is A Seat at the Table by Solange. So I'm going to tell you when I first heard the album, my initial reactions, and then my reactions to it now. So when I first heard A Seat at the Table by Solange was in 2022. I'd always known of the title since 2016. That was the same year Beyonce dropped Lemonade, and then my classmates were all like, "Oh, how can two sisters drop albums within probably within months of each other?" At that time, I know I saw headlines about A Seat at the Table around the same time Lemonade dropped. So I didn't pay it much mind. Everyone was obviously just talking about Lemonade. So because of the hype over Lemonade, I will say A Seat at the Table kind of slid under the radar. Maybe today, now that many people have listened to it, they're like, whoa, back then, from what I can remember, maybe I wasn't as digitally aware, maybe I wasn't as active in like niche music spaces, but back then it wasn't really so popular. So I never even bothered to listen to it. What was the kind of trending single? Cranes in the Sky. No, I didn't just bother, honestly. I was still in school, very busy, obviously. So I only had time for like the bigger albums, so like the Lemonades, what was the other one that came? So many big albums came out that year. I think that's the year, you know, people that look back onto the 2010s and be like, oh, we'll never get another 2016. So like the Lemonades, the Aunties, was that the year that the Drake album dropped? Although that one was very long. I remember the Drake being very long. So A Seat at the Table, I listened to it for the first time in 2022. So you can get the headspace I was in. I had finished school. Yeah, I remember that. I had just finished school, 2022. So prior to this, I had grown to like Cranes in the Sky. I had overplayed Cranes in the Sky. I had overplayed Falling Your Ways, Rise. I had overplayed Rise and Cranes in the Sky because Cranes in the Sky won a Grammy, was a big moment, and I got to listen to it in, I think, 2017 for the first time. And then Rise was on the playlist, and then I just liked it. So Rise and Cranes in the Sky were the only songs I'd heard from this. So I listened to it. Obviously, track 1 is Rise. Rise doesn't really do much world building for the album as much as the next track, Weary, does. So let me see if I can pull up the track list. Okay, so the first track is Rise. On Rise, I don't know how she does it, but her voice, Solange, I think she's the lead performer. I don't know how many people are, let me check for background credits. Okay, Raphael Sadiq is also featured as a performer on Rise. Okay, so Rise is the first track on A Seat at the Table. So Rise doesn't set up the pillars in the way you'd expect an intro track does. It's very like minimalist museum. Rise is primarily vocals, but there's instrumentation kicking in very subtly. The whole A Seat at the Table experience is like a minimalist museum experience. You know how all these museums, there's always like a very light audio. So Solange's voice is now the light audio that's just keeping your head at peace with whatever you're looking at the museum. That Weary, the vocals don't become intense until Weary, and that Weary it's not like there's intense screaming. No, it's very light, but at the same time very pronounced, very intriguing. The way the harmonies are stacked up, the way the ad-libs are done, the arrangements. Oh wow. Then we have interludes. Then there's Cranes in the Sky, which is primarily Solange and harmonies, another good performance. Then there's this song with Lil Wayne, Mad, Don't You Wait For Me. Overall, the one that I really like is Don't Wish Me Well. Don't Wish Me Well and Skills. Very strong closing batch of tracks on this album. Her voice just expatiates into this lightly turbulent cloud of intrigue when she just goes that way. Yes, so I said I was going to tell you. So the first time I heard this was in 2022, and since then I've just, when I can, I just come back to it. Highly recommend you give this a listen. My thoughts in 2022 were positive. Definitely, I was so surprised. What even triggered me to listen to it was I was doing some research on, what are considered the best albums of the past decade. And for some reason, this one was like everyone are like, this album that I just skipped. I remember looking at even the track listing back in that 2016. I was seeing interlude. I was like, what is this one? What's going on? But I'm glad I didn't even bother listening in 2016 because I don't think I would have appreciated it as much as I did when I listened to it for the first time in 2022. Very intense vocals. So if singing is your thing, if harmonies is your thing, very light harmonies, but they are arranged so neatly that it's like butterflies just flying around in alignment. That's how I would describe it. Very good album. I recommend giving it a listen. So my thoughts then were that it's good. My thoughts now are that it's still good. It's still worth the listen. If there are any drawbacks at all to it, is it long? Okay, the total length I'm seeing is 51 minutes, which isn't it isn't too long. The interludes might not be for everyone. There are some parts where you might need to really think. Yes, the singing is good, but there's also lyricism to what Solange is saying. So if you want something to also reflect on while you're listening to this album, because it's very metaphorical in how it represents struggles of many Americans, especially African Americans, Americans of African descent, Americans living in over-policed communities, and all of that. It's very enlightened. It's very reflective of the reality of many, you understand. So if you want also something to reflect on, yes, I recommend also giving this a listen. Standout quality that I can say this album has is that it has very good singing. The next album on my list of 5 albums, so these are just not the best 5, but just 5 albums with very good singing, is Desire I Want to Turn Into You by Polachek. Now, the first time I heard this album was in 2023. Leading up to it, I had learned of the song Bunny is a Rider. I think I saw it on some year-end list. That's how I came across the song, and that was my introduction to Polachek. Bunny is a Rider, I won't say that I quite grasped the hype initially, and even having listened to it in the context of Desire I Want to Turn Into You, I haven't still grasped the hype over that track specifically, although I don't doubt that at some point it will fully marinate with me and become one of my favorite Polachek tracks. Then in 2022, I listened to Billions, and that was when I was like, okay, when this album comes out, I'm going to listen to it. She dropped some other singles in 2022, but by that time I was like, I'm not going to spoil this for myself anymore. So I muted all news around Polachek as much as I could. Billions was a humbly breathtaking experience. When I listen to Billions and how mysterious, right, in a way, how natural Caroline's own vocals interacted with each other on the track. And then you have now also that choir that just comes in to just elevate an already intense experience to a new height. I was like, okay, whatever Polachek has to offer, when she has to offer it, I am going to be seated for it. And I was initially, I'll confess, I was like, I didn't appreciate the flow initially. Welcome to My Island. I remember that track being like a very puzzling intro. Because imagine having listened to a song like Billions, I'm expecting something similar to what another artist we're going to talk about on this list would produce. So Welcome to My Island, just for me to click on the album, and then Welcome to My Island is this unashamed pop track. You know, it's well produced, it's well performed, very intense performance from Caroline, but I was expecting something more subdued. But by the very next track, I was like, okay, I think I'm in the right place. That was my reaction initially, because Welcome to My Island was such a strong shock. I really didn't have the patience for the rest of it. So on my first listen, I didn't appreciate the project at all. My second listen was like I needed to give someone actual commentary on it, so I gave it a full dedicated listen. So after my second listen, I appreciated it a bit more, just a bit more. Then by my third listen, I was okay, this is something else. So the second track is where action really gets going, just like we said with A Seat at the Table. This is really the second track that really gets things in motion. Pretty Impossible is one of the best tracks I've ever heard, period. Then you have Bonnie's a Rider, Sunset. Sunset kind of drew me back to my reaction to Welcome to My Island initially. Like all these, what I would call unashamed pop tracks that I'm just seeing as like, soundtrack kind of tracks, nothing really too committal in that sense, but it has also grown on me. Crude Drawing of an Angel is just out of this world. Out of this world. Out of this world. There's a point on the track, or points on the track, where her voice just goes into one, it just, how will I put it, just glides into a reverb effortlessly, just glides into a reverb. And then there's this like static, kind of like how you have counters in electronics. It's just coming in like an ad-libs, just coming in while her voice is just screaming in ad-libs. It is insane. Then I believe, I can't remember that one, I don't doubt it's good, Fly to You. Oof. Wow. Grimes and Dido, just the three of them just held hands and became the Charlie's Angels of music for the 4 minutes that song lasts. That song is epic. They have Blood and Butter. I can't remember, but I'm sure it's good. Hope Drunk Ever Asking. This one I can't forget it. There's a nice swell at the end. Very nice. Butterfly Net. I can't remember this one. But all these ones, all the tracks are good, right? But the ones that I can tell you, like from memory, real strong standouts, it's track 5, Crude Drawing of an Angel. Billions is also a very strong track. And also Fly to You with Grimes and Dido. So yes, highly recommend. Very good singing. If you're in the school of auto-tune does not count as good singing, Caroline is a good singer, irrespective of auto-tune or not, but the auto-tune in this album's case is more or less just for decorative purpose and not as a crutch. You understand? Her life isn't her talent rather isn't threatened by the absence of the auto-tune. It's just, okay, let us add color to this track. So if you are in the anti-auto-tune camp, especially when you're looking for something with mesmerizing vocals, then maybe you want to skip this one. But if that doesn't mean anything to you, is fantastic record, fantastically produced, fantastically sung throughout and through. Let us go to the next one, which is Sweetener by Ariana Grande. So when did I first listen to Sweetener? Obviously in 2000 and when was it, 18? The song No Tears Left to Cry was inescapable. Very nice song. I remember I really liked the choir chorus on the song's chorus. That yeah, that one. Also, I liked God Is a Woman. And that was where my interaction with Sweetener ended. Even the other singles that came out from it, so like The Light Is Coming, I never really paid attention to it at that time. What else? Breathing, I know she released Breathing as a single. Breathing, I didn't pay it much attention at that time either. I think those were the 4 singles. Let me check officially what singles were released from the album. Okay, so she didn't even release The Light Is Coming, but I remember there being a video for The Light Is Coming. Yes, so I had listened to at least 2 of those singles very actively throughout 2018, some of it bleeding into 2019, because she also released Thank You Next later that year. So by the time Thank You Next was released, I think everybody had just switched into Thank You Next mode. So the Sweetener era didn't really marinate, but I remember this being Ariana Grande's first Grammy, and I was like, that's interesting, because looking at that lineup, not really knowing what was going on, what any of those albums sounded like, I assumed it was going to just go to Taylor Swift, because I always felt that for that category specifically, best pop vocal album, they would tend to go with the albums that perform glaringly well, which was by no measure of doubt Taylor Swift's what was it? Is it Desperate? Reputation. So that album won, and that was very interesting. I was like, But obviously I paid it no mind, because I just felt Ariana Grande can win a Grammy. I didn't think of it as, this is reflective of the album's quality. So why did I eventually listen to Sweetener in 2021? Why? I can't remember why exactly I listened to it. I don't know what I felt I would get out of it when I eventually listened to it, but something just made me, I can't remember, and I really want to remember what pushed me to get into Sweetener specifically, because I can't say that it was all over the best of 2010s list. No, I can't remember what happened. So for the fact I can't remember what happened, let me just say that I think at the time people were saying, this is actually Ariana Grande's best album. By this time I had listened to Thank You Next in 2019, and I'd really liked Thank You Next. But a lot of people are arguing that no, Sweetener is better. I'm like, okay, so let me give Sweetener a listen. So the first track, and just like, again, as we saw with A Seat on the Table and then Desire I Want to Turn Into You, Raindrops and Angel Cry doesn't really give away much. It's literally just Ariana Grande singing for 37 seconds. This snippet, I don't know what it's called. I don't think it's her writing, but it's just Raindrops and Angel Cried. Is an a cappella cover of An Angel Cried, a 1964 song by Bob Gaudio, and performed by the Four Seasons. Okay. So it's a cover that doesn't give much away. Then there's Blazed, and that's when, whoa. And I think the thing with Sweetener specifically is I think all the vocals are hers. I want to say, correct me if I'm wrong, but you aren't here to correct me. But I think all the vocals on Sweetener are hers. So her voice, the fact that she's able to do these different parts and stack them repeatedly up top of each other, and then you're just like, what? So she and Pharrell are just doing like this exchange on this track, and then every time her voice comes on, you're just like, whoa, like it just keeps building and building and building. Then even the light is coming that I didn't really like when I first heard it. Coming after a track like Blaze, it just builds on that energy. Then there is REM. Whoa. REM is next level. I listened to an interview or like a clip from an interview. I don't know if it's REM or what's this one? Get Well Soon, which is another insane track. But she said that on the software that she used to produce the recording, that she maxed out the number of audio slots, because obviously all these DAWs, they don't care whether or not it's vocals or they just have slots for audio tracks. So she maxed that out, which is insane. REM is insane. Like it just flutters very effortlessly for its 4-minute runtime. And Pharrell is the producer. He's just there doing his thing. Ariana Grande's vocals are just pressed majestically onto your ears. God is a Woman is another nice performance. This Sweetener song, I don't hate it. A lot of people hate it, but me, I don't hate it. Successful is another very nice one. I really like the da-da-da, da-da, da-da-da-da. The only thing I will say I don't like about that song is I wish they did something a bit different with the ending. By the way, mind you, the first time I listened to this album, I just had it on a loop afterwards. So if you look at my I used Apple Music. If you look at my Apple Music history, it's just going to be my most played songs of all time. It's just going to be like maybe 10 other songs, then the entire Sweetener album. Every time, it's also a good performance. Obviously, there are no bad performances here, but it's all. I think the tracks that are not produced by Pharrell are like her kind of more what some people call pop 101 type of track. So that's Every Time, Breathing, and No Tears Left to Cry. Good tracks, but still, in that very pop light kind of world. Borderline, very nice. I like that one. Also produced by Pharrell. Better Off. Ooh, I like Better Off. I like Better Off. I really like Better Off. I really like the second time the bridge comes around. The harmony is the second time the bridge comes around. Very nice. Good Night and Go. I remember this one. And I remember not liking this one. Then Pete Davidson, I really like Pete Davidson. Then Get Well Soon is, and I'm glad I never listened to this song until I heard it as a closer for Sweetener, because I know she released this as a single following the Manchester bombing, but then why isn't it listed as a single? Well, maybe because it's not a single for the album, it just happened to be on the album. The harmonies on Get Well Soon. Ooh. It feels like you're just in a sea, and that sea is just Ariana Grande's voice. Oh, wow. I love that song. So, Sweetener, highly recommend. I don't think this album had a deluxe version, so I highly recommend giving Sweetener a listen. I also listened to this because 2021 was the first year Apple Music did Dolby Atmos. So, it was the first year they did Dolby Atmos. So, I also listened to this in spatial audio. I can't say the special mixes that I remember were like to die for, but overall Sweetener is a majestic album. The next one I am going to talk about is Medúlla by Björk. Medúlla, I don't know how it's pronounced. There's an accent on the U, but Medúlla by Björk. I started listening to Björk after Björk's sound had become so, she had really matured in her sound and been renowned for her unique sound. So the whole experimental, communication with the unknown that she does. I started listening to Björk in 2017. What was the album? Utopia. 2017 passes. I think after Utopia, Phosphorus. So I listened to Utopia. I really liked Utopia. In 2021, I liked this Human Behavior song. I just heard it, and then I also heard Army of Me. Then the only album that I listened to, again from Björk, was Homogenic. So I didn't even listen to Vespertine or Post. I just listened to Homogenic, and I really liked Homogenic. I listened to it once, but it wasn't an attentive listen, you understand? So I'm sure if I listen to Homogenic again, I'm going to hear things that will make me want to come back to it more and more. So when did I listen to Medúlla? I was still in school. This was in 2022. I just wanted to listen to it. It wasn't, all over the best of 2000s list or anything. It was just, this artwork looks interesting. I want to know what's going on here. Also, Oceania was a very nice track that I had listened to, and I was like, okay, what does the album for this kind of track sound like? You understand? And how I even found out about that Oceania was I was doing like some casual scrolling through who's been nominated for what, and then I was like, Björk was nominated for a Grammy that wasn't Best Alternative Album. That was interesting. So I was like, definitely I'm giving that song a listen. And yeah, that's how I found out about Oceania. So Oceania has just this marine life track. You are transported to the bottom of the sea with that track. So, but before I even get into that, I really liked Oceania, and I always wondered what the whole album would sound like. I didn't know that the whole album would follow that, vocals only format. So what the crux of Medúlla is about is there are next to no non-vocal instrumentations, or there are next to no instruments beyond vocals on the album. So if you're hearing like a bass, that's probably somebody beatboxing. If you're hearing something that sounds very high-pitched, that's somebody just singing a very high register. And yeah. So the first song, Pleasure Is All Mine, it creeps. It just creeps. And then with those it just creeps, and then it just sits down, and then it just starts. But although this Show Me Forgiveness, and I've seen this also written in many places online, kind of threw me off, but Where Is the Line brought me back. And then, the other songs, I can't really remember them by their titles, but obviously I can tell you about Oceania, a very good song. Very, very, very good song. It's kind of like the perspective of the ocean, like the ocean telling earthlings or land dwellers, like, hey, see, you come from me, right? You come from me. So don't even dare to disrespect me. It's one of those tracks where, like, just the lyrical content alone, you're so amazed. And then she's doing this with very nice singing and very interesting choral support and very powerful beatboxing running through this album. So vocals are great. Once again, highly recommend. This one is 45 minutes. It's not a pop album. I don't think it's an easy listen. I've grown to like it, and I've grown to add it to my workflow playlist. But for a first-time listener, especially when you're not familiar with Björk style, not necessarily even Björk style, but just this kind of experimental approach to music, it might throw you off, but definitely it's a rewarding listen. The last album on my list, I won't talk about too much because I only listened to the album once and vowed never to listen to it again. Vowed is too much of a strong word, but I am hesitant to re-listen to this album because the writing Okay, I know this is a vocal recommendation conversation, but the writing was so strong that I was like, I can't put myself through this again. But beyond the writing, also, there's the harmonies and the performances, and this is Kil Moon's Benji. No, I can't even describe Benji well the way that I've done. It's just one of those things I definitely recommend you give a listen to, but just know you're probably going to listen to it once and then you're just going to keep it there. How did I discover Benji? So when did I first listen to Benji? I first listened to Benji in 2023. Why did I listen to Benji? I was, again, the whole best of 2010s thing, catching up on on the past decade. I wasn't so musically active and all of that. So Benji was just an album I saw on the dead middle of all these lists, and I was like, oh, okay, why not just give this a try? Remember, I was at work. I was like, work isn't too stressful today. Let me just make my day a bit better with something running through my ears. So I thought it was just going to be all these hardcore country. I didn't know much about Kil Moon. It was just random artist, random album. Let me just give this a listen and boom, Carissa. Whew. Carissa, and then every track afterwards until it finally ends. Benji is one of a kind. I can't recommend giving this a listen enough. I don't even want to get into details of the kind of, writing. Writing is very important. It's one of Benji's star qualities, but also the performances that convey the stories. And a lot of all these Americana, folk, and country lights. Bluegrass is the word I'm looking for. A lot of all these kinds of albums have very good performances, but this one stands out. This Benji, in this whole folk space, this Benji stands out, and it's just one of those things that you listen to, you can't forget. I don't think you can forget, unless you listen to it with spoilers, or they tell you, okay, the kind of subject matter that's being written about on the album, or the direction the album takes and all of that. If you listen to it without spoilers, you are in for a ride. That is it. 5 albums with very good vocals that if, when you are creating and you use music as opposed to podcasts or audiobooks, these are just some of my recommendations. And by the way, me even mentioning why you create while creating is just me tying it to 3. I could have just called these 5 albums with great vocals and called it a day. All right, we didn't need to say, oh, this is what I used to create. Just 5 albums with great vocals, period. If you agree with these recommendations, or you have recommendations of your own, definitely let me know about them. Thank you for listening to this, and I'll be sure to make some other recording like this. So yes, if you have recommendations of your own, again, the topic here is albums with good vocals. So I'm not talking about albums that they just have 3 songs with good vocals. I'm talking about the entire album is centered around great singing. You understand? So albums with good vocals. If you have your suggestions, just let me know. Also, what kind of recommendation lists like this do you also want from me? Thank you for listening.